predicting hopefully the episode might be hour and a half, but we'll see. Other than that,
can I ask something real quick?
What's up?
Can I go piss real quick? Like, homie, I've been chugging water bottles the entire day.
yeah. I mean, if you want
recording this and put this into the opening.
Oh, God damn it.
In the water bottle.
Stay hydrated, kids. Yes, sir. Hey guys, welcome to the InkGuild podcast with your host.
Oh shit.
I don't buy it. Just go to fucking therapy.
If I develop Sims, delete the channel.
Fuck capitalism. We need to start a revolution.
And you know what? I'm gonna say it.
I can't replace a fire alarm on my own. Technically, 25 is technically you.
Sing your morning routine.
Hello, everybody. My name is Dean, and welcome back to the InkGuild podcast. Tonight, I'm joined by Marie-Soleil.
Hello.
And two new faces joining the InkGuild tonight. I have Charbel.
Hello.
And Marcus.
Hey, good morning, Kanye.
All right. Tonight, we're going to be talking about Instagram poetry. And fitting as the topic is, first we should talk to a few poets. Not Instagram poets, but just poets. Charbel and Marcus here have been my classmates in our poetry class for, I think, since fall of 2020. And we have been in the same poetry class, but with the same poetry teacher since. But I think in our own way, we have been writing poetry longer than that. But I think I've talked enough about myself in these introductions. So I'll hand it off to Charbel first to talk about just who he is, how long he's been writing for, and yeah. So Charbel, take it away.
Yeah. I really started writing back in 2017 when I got to university. And obviously, like, I started out in fiction. I've always thought about writing fiction since I was a kid and all that stuff. But till, like last fall in 2020, when I had to do poetry because everybody has to do it. And I only fucked around with it in grade 6, and everyone was obsessed with it, like in my class or whatever. Anyways, what really kind of sold me on it was I just loved it more. I was doing it like throughout my day, reading, writing, always wanted to fucking figure it out more. And yeah, and your guys' reaction to the class, I was like, oh my god. And my reaction to what the fuck I'm writing scared me and scared everybody. I loved it.
Yeah, we can talk about like the actual, or as we are doing these introductions, we can talk about like the impact or like, the kind of poetry that we'd been writing during these classes. But I think before that, let's talk to Marcus to let him introduce himself.
Hey, good morning, Kanye.
Change your username. All right. So for all those audio listeners, it'll only make sense if you're watching it on YouTube.
Sup, name's Marcus. I've been in the poetry writing game since 2015, so grade 11, or like end of grade 10, start of grade 11. I've been in mostly the spoken word poetry scene for like a good portion of my life. Was head of my high school's poetry team, and then we won like the provincial competition during 2017. So I know my way around poetry. I really like the fact that it's very expressive. I much love the fact that with spoken word, you can present it in a manner that doesn't seem too boring nor too cliche that everyone sees on what like TV shows. Everyone's just like, poetry, fuck, depression and shit. Well, I guess the first time I remember hearing about poetry, it was this specific episode from this stupid like cartoon. It's not even stupid. It's such a good show. It's called 16. It's when like this one character named Wyatt goes like this spoken
Oh my
word
god, I
thing.
know the show.
It's literally right after his breakup, and all you hear was just him screaming against the mic, and I'm like, is this what poetry is? But like.
Such a good callback. I love that show.
Yeah. But obviously TV shows are just emphasizing the stereotypes. But yeah, it's a beautiful world to be in. So
yeah. So for myself, though I have talked about my writing origins before, for poetry I haven't really delved that much into it. I think I only really recently started, I think like 2-3 years ago, that's when I started, just drafting up poetry that I would put on Instagram, and seeing as we're talking about Instagram poetry, it's kind of fitting that I've wanted to talk about this for a while, but I never really had the audience for it, I guess, or really the guests for it, because a lot of us within the InkGuild are primarily prose writers, and a lot of things. For those listeners who have been listening for a while, you will have already known how we came together as a class, or like how we came together. It was just me crashing the class one day, and I never left, and no one wanted me to leave. I think no one's ever said, get the fuck out of the class or something. But anyway, similar to, class was where I met Charbel and Marcus, but that was through Zoom because in the fall of 2020, that was still when classes were still online. I personally joined the class to kind of, improve on my poetry, because I had recognized that it wasn't great and I was already wanting to improve on it. But yeah, what about you guys? What did you want out of that class, or what did you want out of that intro to poetry class?
For me, deep down, I wasn't really liking my fiction anymore, because what I used to do is, after my fiction class, I like to wait a week, because you get a confidence boost in fucking workshopping. So I wait for that confidence boost to go down, and then I like objectively look at my work, and I really didn't like my fiction. Right, I was like, this is, and even the critique I got, they were friendly and everything. I still deep down, I was like, this kind of sucked. So anyway, I was like, yeah, I was doing poetry. I was like, you have to, no matter what. But I thought I'd take my hand at it, and I was just doing the student, really paying no attention. And I sort of thought like Marcus, poems are just fucking lovey-dovey, depression and all that cheesy stuff. Anyways, it wasn't until I got into like the World War I poetry that really got me interested, and then from there got me hooked, that it could just be about anything, and the precision in words and how much emotion you can get from using one line of poetry. That's what really got me sold on it.
Mm-hmm. Marcus, how about you? What were you wanting out of that intro to poetry class?
I guess the answer I can give you is ever since I got into university, I was still looking for ways to be interacting within like the poetry community of Calgary. So usually what happens is that like you go to these open mics or whatever, but these open mics are like, they start really late. They're at bars and stuff. They're probably really far. They're like really far from where I live. So I was still trying to figure out ways I could still implement poetry, and more specifically spoken word, into my lifestyle, because it was something I was really passionate about. And literally straight out of high school, I was just like, I don't want to do anything else than just do poetry. So I took all these classes that like I thought I could use to help me with my poetry. I took a confidence class for an elective. There was also this one with storytelling, and I took that class to help me with like my tones and stuff, and just presenting in general. And then eventually I did realize, oh look, there's an actual poetry class in the university, and that took me like 2 semesters to realize. Because every time you register, it just go out straight. Like it'd be full straight away, and I was like, I do not want to get waitlisted. Like that's it's a sucky feeling. So going into that poetry class, I already knew what I was doing, but at the same time, I was really hoping to find that sense of like community I had in high school within my own spoken word team. There were clubs within the university, but they were more specifically not into like the whole spoken word thing. There's this one club I got invited to. Shout out to my homegirl Z. It was mostly like a rap cipher group, and even though it was still in a spectrum of poetry, I still felt really out of place because I just couldn't really join in. I couldn't like say this really deep monologue against the beat. At least I'm not that skilled enough anyways. So walking into that class, I was just hoping to get that sense of community, just get myself into like interacting with people who were passionate about poetry as I was.
Yeah, well, I think naturally for a intro class, I think like I certainly can't speak on that kind of community, and I'm gonna follow it up with you in a second. But I think like a lot of us kind of came in with different expectations, right? Like for me, wanting to improve, that was kind of vague, but specifically, I just wanted to like have some kind of defined form, really, because like I was aware of like haikus and other kinds of poetic forms like that, but like really trying to find the one that would work best for me. Specifically as a strong prose writer, I was hoping that like I could incorporate my prose, and coincidentally, the following semester after we did that class that specified specifically on different poetic forms, like I've become much more comfortable in prose poetry, but that is, I think, my preferred form. Marcus, you've to talk about form for a second. You've said it's kind of obvious between us three at least, and probably to Marie-Soleil at this point, that you have a preference for spoken word. So why is that?
I guess funny story actually. I didn't really know what spoken word was in high school. I just knew we had this club at school that just liked to stand in front of a mic and talk to people. And I think it was in a 20-2 class, and I remember writing like this poetry monologue about why I would rather prefer it to not be summer, because I'd rather have it be fall and winter so I could stay in school and actually do something and learn. And my teacher was like, "Oh, we have this club. It's called Spoken Word. It's not that talked about within the school community, but I think it's a good fit for you." And once I joined, I did realize it was a good fit because it was a small community, but at the same time, there's the potential to emit such a big impact within a group of people, because you were able to talk about these issues that some people could relate to, and other people could gain a new perspective on, and just having that sense of community and getting that sense of like getting that sense of I joined this group to become a follower, and then now they trust me enough to become a leader. I think that's what kept me into the thing too. So I guess when I joined the poetry class as well, I did want to get that sense of like leadership and like helping people with like their own works and stuff, which I did get from like the critique, which I'm really thankful for. So yeah.
Charbel, how about you? Coming out of both the intro class and the more form heavy class, which form do you think you best write in? Or do you think best brings out your work?
I don't know. When I like you, Dean, I always knew about haikus and stuff, and I've always liked that idea of writing with a restriction that each line must have a certain amount of syllables or must rhyme since I was a kid, but I never really paid attention to it. To me, it's weird. Like, I first think about the message and what I'm writing about, like in the poem, and I try to see, is there a form that kind of historically fits with that message? Or I just like the rules. You know what I mean? It's like if I see this form and I really like the rules and I really like the historical context behind this form, or the like, you know, sonnets are mostly love poems. So that shit kind of goes in my critique. But I've been even thinking about like changing it around. You know, I'm like, if this form is not really getting my message across, doesn't really sound good, doesn't read good, that makes any sense, I change that. So I really don't have a favorite, but one thing I can't do is like I can't do spoken word like Marcus. Like I give him big props because the idea of just what you're writing must also sound good, and to work on your presentation, I can't do that. So that's big props for him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I commend him for that too. It's difficult to kind of nail the performing aspect of spoken word, and unfortunately, spoken word isn't our topic for tonight. But yeah, that is huge props to not just have good, not just structure your poem in a way that everything flows really well and has a lot of heightened imagery and a lot of different poetic elements, but basically like being able to perform that too in front of 50 people, like 25, 50 people, maybe even into the triple digits for some people, like that's insane. I think one last thing before we get into the topic tonight, writing goals. So we had shared before our particular writing goals. So I shared how I wanted to be a novelist. Marie-Soleil, it's been a while since your introductory episode. What was one of your main writing goals again? Or if not your main writing goal?
I would also like to be a novelist, and I just want somebody to pick my book up off a shelf and read it and be like, I want to be a writer like this one day. I want to inspire people to write.
Yeah. Did you have a specific genre for that, by the way, or because my fantasy? Yeah. So like Marie-Soleil, my genre is fantasy as well. Now we go to Charbel and Marcus. What are your guys' writing goals?
For me, so like when I first took my writing class at this university, I basically had this prof, and he came up and he's like, I got 8 books published. This is for fiction writing. And he's like, I got 8 books published right now. And when I get my royalty checks, that's the money he gets from sales. I get the check in the mail and I just go and buy coffee from Tim's. Because he's like, if you're in it for the money, you're not going to get money. And that was my goal since 2017. It was like, if I can make enough money to go buy something from Tim Hortons based on what I've written, fuck, that's like, I got to keep doing this. You know what I mean? That's like this is the path. I'm on the right path.
Yeah, if it pays, then it'll work, right? Or some kind of phrasing along those lines. Marcus, how about you?
I guess goal-wise, like regarding like my poetry and just my writing in general, I guess like a short-term goal is like I would like to complete like a full-fledged story with like chapters and like an actual build-up rather than like a short story. You know what I mean? Like an actual novel.
Mm-hmm.
But I think like my all-time goal is I would love to be like a poet laureate, and it doesn't even have to be in like Calgary. It could just be anywhere, honestly. Just the fact that like you're representing a city, you're representing the people. I think that's like what also is so like that's what also embodies poetry really well. Poetry came from just people wanting to talk about things that they thought was weird, or like things that were considered orthodox, but to them they didn't comprehend why, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. And then just having like this establishment, like this government, these people recognize you for the fact of your work and say like, we understand where you're coming from. We think what you're doing is representing us well. We want you to represent us. And yeah, just being a poet laureate, I think, would just make my life. I remember also I used to joke around the fact of like, oh, I could also be like a bard. I could just like I could just be like some random Filipino guy like walking around and be like, hey yo, you want to hear some poetry? Just give me like let me sleep
have the bard clothes though, like the medieval shit.
That'd be
not
fun.
even like a bard, like the modern day bard, like the modern day bard is just a couch surfer who just
at the transit. Just
like at the
fucking come on,
transit.
give me some change. That's good shit though.
That'd be good.
I mean, like, it sounds very memey, but I think like it's a very wholesome idea. It's just like a lot of people just be like, I don't know about that, bro.
Yeah, I mean,
Can I clarify myself? Because I don't want the viewers to be like, fuck this Charbel guy. He's in it for the money. I'm not in it for the money because there's no money, A. And B, in writing in general, it's like, have you thought about how trippy it is? The idea that you've made a connection with someone, or your reader, which you would have never met in your entire life, only because of your book. Isn't that fucking weird? The idea of just like, I have that moment where I'm just like sitting at a bar and some guy comes up to me and he's like, hey, I read your work and I really liked it. I would have never met that guy if it weren't for my reading. I like that shit too. That's another thing I'm chasing on. It's not for the money. There's no money. I'm going to be poor forever. Don't worry, everybody.
oh man, you didn't have to get that real, but I mean, yeah, I understand. I think before we close off the segment, yeah, just to touch on Charbel's goal, like for me, that's definitely been a goal of mine, is to resonate with, or have my writing resonate with my audience, especially because my audience is important. Because for Xeno, and I think I've talked about this plenty with Marie-Soleil on the podcast and off conversation, but Charbel, Marcus, they don't really know a lot about Xeno, but basically Xeno is my big novel that I'm hoping to accomplish one day. And the key figure for it is her name is, or the protagonist of that story is Porter Xeno. She is a 21-year-old bisexual, half black, half white woman. And that in itself, like being bisexual, being half black, half white, but having a darker skin tone compared to a lot of light skins portrayed in the media. So much of that has to be written importantly. And if written well, and if people resonate with that and enjoy Porter as a protagonist, that would mean loads to me. But I think, yeah, I've already spoken on that previously on the podcast before, but I think with introductions out of the way, let's now get into our main topic, which is Instagram poetry. Pretty sure if we haven't already been talking about that before, well, here's probably where everyone just skipped right to the timestamps if you don't want to hear these great introductory stories. So, first off, what is Instagram poetry? It seems pretty self-explanatory. It is poetry on Instagram, but over the years, it has really become its own thing, rather than just people sharing, poetry from people previous or something like that. No, like Instagram poetry, to me at least, has always been short excerpts, or like short lines, maybe nothing longer than 14 lines even sometimes, that can be quickly read and understood by a very general audience. And in other words, it's like, if you see it, you like it, it's pretty much that easy to read one. But that's my definition. To ask everyone else, starting with Marie-Soleil, what have you always thought Instagram poetry as?
I've always thought Instagram poetry, when I first started realizing it was a thing, I thought it was weird, because in my mind, Instagram was for like pictures of things, not words. I associated words more with like Tumblr and stuff like that. But as like it got more common, I guess, and I got older, it sort of like came to understand it more as like an easy way to get like short poems out into the universe on a popular media.
Mm-hmm. It's a fair description.
Doesn't have the connotations of Tumblr, that makes sense.
Yeah, well, as we'll probably get on, there is a lot of things that Instagram poetry doesn't really have. But yeah, before we get a little too ahead of ourselves, Charbel, what have you always defined Instagram poetry as?
I at first I couldn't I didn't know what to call when I see it. So I had to go on the Wikipedia page for it. But Dean, you kind of nailed it on the head. That this is how I separated it. There's when I say Instagram, I'm talking about like Twitter, Tumblr, Facebook, Reddit, all that social media, okay? Because they all work the same at the end of the day. So I separated from Instagram as a platform and Instagram poetry as the poetic form. And the poetic form, you basically nailed it on the head, where it's very short. There's nothing wrong with having a short poem. Direct, very ordinary language, which is stuff I normally like, and a lot of poets done that shit before. But there's some characteristics of the form that's so appreciated and liked that kind of sucks, which I'll get into later. So that's Instagram as a poetic form. Instagram as a platform is all fine. I'm okay with people posting their shit, and I never posted my shit, to be honest. I really, in my 5 years of writing, never showed my shit to any of my friends except till this last year with my poetry, because I was like, you guys who probably hate poetry, don't even care about it, will like some of this shit. But yeah, that is basically it, is using social media to post your stuff, and somehow naturally through likes and shit, a poetic form was created. And I'm the kind of, we'll get into that later, I'm kind of the good and the bad and the ugly of that poetic form.
Mm-hmm. Marcus, what would you define Instagram poetry as?
We're talking definitions, not overall opinion, right?
Yeah, just your kind of definition for it right now. We can touch on opinion later.
Yeah. It's just to make sure I don't rant. The way I see Instagram poetry, it does like what Bitters said. So we're calling it Bitters, but what immediately clicked was how she mentioned Tumblr poetry. Like I assumed Instagram poetry was just an offspring of Tumblr poetry, but in a more condensed version. I do understand how I do think there is some, how do I say this, inspiration taken from like haiku and like tankos and whatnot, like the Japanese form of like how it's these poems that are very short, very like short and sweet, but like get to the point. But at the same time, it's not doing the things that people have recognized haikus have been doing for centuries now. Mm-hmm. For the whole emphasis on landscape and imagery and so forth.
Also, like for haikus, it's also about the emotion when you're seeing nature. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. In those small ass syllables.
Yeah.
I forgot. It's this word I heard in art history. It's like you're like this amazement when you see like this scenery or whatever. It's like this like French word. I'm trying to remember it, but I can't. But yeah, it's very short, very sweet. Some people, it's very common knowledge. There isn't much big words within it. It's like just common words that people use on an everyday basis, not the stuff you find in like page 259 of the dictionary. You know?
Yeah. So I guess as a general definition to kind of add on to it, there is poetry, which features a lot of heightened image, or a lot of heightened things in general. So heightened imagery, heightened alliteration, heightened metaphor, things that really, I don't know how to, like, I don't know if this is the proper phrasing for it, but it enhances scenes and it enhances emotions in ways that writing all of it out in prosaic sentences might not always achieve. There is some kind of beauty when it comes to just three to four lines, even, that like a lot of poetry can capture. But with Instagram poetry, it almost feels to me as if it's sometimes lacking that kind of uniqueness and imagery. And I've been told about this through our poetry classes, but as I've learned about poetry, it's a very personal thing, or at least it can be a very personal thing. It's not always supposed to be very general. It is through your emotions and your experiences and your language that conveys your poem, like your poem as your poem, not not just like hollow words for likes, basically. And I guess it's not on our outline, but I did want to ask individually, what is Instagram poetry lacking? So it's not touching on our outline that says what's wrong with it. We can get to that later, but right now, let's ask, what is it lacking? And I've kind of rapid fired through a list. So it's lacking that kind of personality, and it's lacking that kind of heightened imagery and heightened senses and emotion. But what do you guys think?
You kind of got on, yeah. Basically, that's kind of what I was trying to get at. Well, from going off what you're saying, is it is about having your emotions and stuff like that. But there's a big difference between if I just said I'm sad to writing a haiku about the emotion sadness. You know what I mean? That's the physical wear of your body, your mind's running, like your heart rate is either going up or down. That's a big thing. That is beautiful. That is a great metaphor. That's hard to do. In Instagram poetry, what it's lacking is most of the poems, and I'm okay with having direct languages and using ordinary language. I'm okay with using slang. The problem is a lot of the Instagram poetry I've been seeing is it's very just, there's nothing to explore. It's just something like, I'm sad. Oh, I'm feeling sad too. I'll give it a like, get that dopamine in my head, and swipe down to the next poem. None of these Instagram poets I ever found myself going back and rereading it and examining it. It's just so out in the open, so direct and generic, and I'll get into it later.
Right.
But yeah, like there's nothing to really dig deep to. It's just like, I'm sad, the end.
Mm-hmm.
Give me my like, please.
Yeah. Marie-Soleil, what was that?
There's no depth to it.
Yeah.
In a way, like it's there and it's gone. And in the moment you read it and you're like, oh yeah, that sounds amazing. I'm going to give this a like. I'm going to share it. You never go back to it. Like with other poems, people have their books on their shelves. They'll read it. They'll read it to their kids. Everything. With these, it's a scroll and it's gone.
Fair enough. Marcus, how about you? What do you think? What is it missing?
What I will agree on is the fact that Instagram poetry has the proper sentiment and the proper intention to relate to, like, you're trying to relate with other people in a way that is very quick and it's very straight to the point. There isn't some elongated, very expanded on metaphor that depicts what you're feeling. But I would argue that I guess that's what's part of poetry. It's that ride of like going through stanza, trying to figure out where is this going to lead to. I think what's lacking the most is that it's lacking the proper. It can have the right sentiment and intention. It's lacking the proper knowledge as to what really is a poem, because I think the fact that Instagram poetry is so coming up, there's this large misconception of like, if I write a 4-line stanza that is literally just a one run-on sentence of how fucking sad I am, that's poetry. And I think it pushes people into this direction of like, okay, if I can do that, then if they can do that, then I can do it. It creates this snowball, I believe. Yeah.
Wait, real quick, about going off what Marcus said, like I was saying, you don't have to go into long stanzas about your emotions. The problem, I'm okay with it being short and direct. Some of them are like 3 lines, 2 lines, which is fine. The problem is like, they're like what Marie said, there is no depth to it. You could pack a lot of emotion in just 5 lines. You know what I mean? Or in 3 lines of a haiku. The problem is nobody's doing that. They're leaving it very bland and out in the open. And it's like I was saying, you just see it. Oh, you relate that emotion. I'm sad. This poet's sad. And then you swipe up. You're not really expanding what I'm using sadness as an example, you know, you're not really expanding the idea of sadness. How the fuck does that work, you know?
Right. And I mean, to add on to that, I think what makes poems what makes poetry so special and intimate, I think technically speaking, it's how lines are created in the first place. Like how stanzas are created, how lines are written out. There is something special in that. It's like how, you know, as we were talking about last episode, it's how a painter paints. There's different painting techniques to, you know, from pointillism to short brushstrokes to different paints. All of that makes it very personal for a painter. And same thing with poetry. I think how you write your sentences, how enjambment plays into your favor too, that defines who you are as a poet. And I think with Instagram poetry, personally, it's always felt like, I don't want to say all Instagram poetry feels like copy and pastes of each other, because there obviously is some style there. And when we touch on, you know, when we touch on some Instagram poets, we can try to distinguish that. But basically, when it comes to that kind of technical creativity that you can have with spacing out stanzas or forging your lines, I think, yeah, Marcus kind of defined it really well. It's one run-on sentence split between 4 lines. Suddenly now everyone is doing that and calling themselves a poet, when really it doesn't really work like that traditionally. I think for Instagram poetry, that's almost what it is. But for traditional poetry, as that debate has been, you know, kind of, you know, we were bound to talk about that eventually, or we were bound to mention that, how traditional poetry and traditional versus Instagram poetry. But, you know,
shit, I want to go off what you said about some of them feel like copy and paste, and I kind of do agree with you that they do have the exact same topic or the exact same like I swear to God, I saw 5 poems in a row. Every single one was about their soulmate, and every single one can use the metaphor of them being a part, like a piece to my puzzle, a key to my lock, lighter, like fucking 5 in a row. And I feel like the reason that happens, the copy paste happens, is this is true with all social media, honestly. It becomes a circle jerk of who can get the most likes. If this person gets a lot of likes one day or a lot of whatever, I got to do the same thing he did to get my likes, because these people are working. These poets, so this is their job. And sadly, your writing and all that shit is restricted to getting likes, even though this shit sucks. I'm sorry. It becomes a competition of whose poem can get most likes, and the amount of likes somehow classifies as success. And I'll talk about that later.
Mm-hmm. I think that I never really factored the kind of the competition that comes with Instagram poetry, but I think with the repetitiveness and like having the same kind of lines over and over again, that is a familiar thing when it comes to poetry in general, or like writing in general, because, you know, postcard stories can be talking about sadness, or you know, rondeaus can speak on happiness. But I think the specialty that comes with different poetic forms, such as rondeau, spoken word, and to an extent free verse, is how the poet goes about talking about, or like how they go about, you know, talking about
presenting it.
Presenting it. Yeah.
And the problem is, like, some of them present in almost the same way, like the same metaphor or the same symbolism in Instagram. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe it's just me, but fuck.
Yeah, like, you know, Marcus can express his emotions through spoken word. I can express my emotions, or I can express my poems through prose poetry. Charbel, you can express it through American sentences. But that is just on form. I think form definitely helps play a part in differentiating you as a poet, but I think more or less a lot of Instagram poetry, or at least, you know, to go back on topic, like, I think what Instagram poetry really is lacking is that kind of distinguishability between this writer and this writer and this writer.
I want to kind of go back to what you said. Like, pretend there was Marcus and another guy, both doing spoken word, both doing there's the same form, right? They could, let's say they're talking about breakup or whatever. Those two individuals could just have radically different ways of expressing their poem, which is great. The problem is with Instagram poetry, what it's lacking is, well, dead depth. That's what I'm going to hammer home. And also, some of them are presenting the poetry in the exact same, like I said, metaphor, symbolism. It's like, yeah, imagine if Marcus went up and he did his spoken word about breakup, and the next guy did the exact same one, except he changed a couple of sentences around. Like, you know, what the fuck? You know?
Yeah. Marie-Soleil, how about, do you have anything to add on to what we've been saying so far?
Just one comment that, like, it's like what you guys have been saying, that a lot of it seems to be repetition between the different poets. And sometimes one poet will come out with one piece that's like an amazing piece, and it impacts a lot of people. But all of their other work that kind of gets overshadowed now, it's just this repetitive copy and paste from that's similar to everybody else. But because they have that one or those 3 poems out of 100 that stand out above the rest, that person rises in popularity faster than the others.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, ultimately, yeah. And I mean, ultimately, you know, if it's based on likes, then yeah, the more likes this get, obviously, the more popular the piece overall gets, and the more attention that the one gets. And I haven't seen many examples of very similar poems. I see very similar messages, but I think that in itself is a whole other tangent. But I won't really get into that. I think where I was getting at is that copy and pasting on Instagram, especially in regards to poetry, like, yeah, it's kind of what Charbel said. It's just a few lines changed, and it's pretty much a similar poem to another writer, which, wow, that in itself is a problem. But
yeah. And I'm pretty sure we all understand, like, when I say copy and paste, I don't mean like plagiarism. I just mean
like using the same metaphor, like a lighter to my cigarette, you know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I guess I have another point to bring up. The more that we talk about this, in comparison to Instagram poetry and spoken word, I have like when you're starting out with poetry, you're going to get inspiration and try to reach out and become these people that you see. So, for example, for me, back in high school, my favorite poem, I think, was it's this one by Rudy Francisco. I'm trying to remember. I think it's like Scars, and it's called Scars / to the Next Boyfriend or something like that. And the format is like, the format of the poem, obviously it's spoken word, but the format of the poem is like 1 blah 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 blah, 2 blah 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 blah, and it keeps on going until like 10, and then whatever. So when I started doing spoken word, I tried implementing and doing the same thing. So I remember one of the first poems I performed at a school slam was 10 reasons why I don't like public speaking or something like that. And I followed that format, but at the same time, I was still trying to do something different with it. I got inspiration from the fact that I saw him do it in this way, so I thought, okay, maybe I can do it in this. What I think Instagram poetry lacks and is like very, very definitive thing that makes it struggle to allow the writer to flourish properly, I'll say, is that one, there's a large emphasis on quantity rather than like quality, because you can find an Instagram page and it'll have a bunch of poems and it'll look really aesthetic, it'll have like it'll look all nice and stuff, but like what is said before, you can only find like 2 poems out of like 25 posts that actually like, oh, that's something new I didn't hear. And 2, I think because of how restrictive Instagram poetry is, how limited space you have to grab someone's attention, that what makes it lack in the detail, the expansion that we're all used to with regular poetry, or just poetry that we've been so immersed in between like the past like couple years, like few years, like back to back to back to back. What haiku can do is that haiku can do all these things about expanding imagery and so forth and so forth. What Instagram poetry can't do is do those things, because I think there's this huge misconception that if I can relate to someone, that means I'm a good writer, because I can agree with someone's opinion on like a text, or like I can agree on like, oh, that's cool. Yes, that was very cool. But at the same time, you're not expanding on why it's cool. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
It's like setting the foundation but not building the house.
It's building the roof. It's building the roof and thinking, okay, I have a house now.
Yeah.
Like that's literally what I think it is.
Well, also, I like what Marcus said. I agree with it, and I don't know, maybe I misread, but I feel like the short frame that you have in Instagram, you can make some good deep shit on it. I don't want to say that they're not doing it on purpose or they're lazy. I believe that because of they're going off likes as terms of success, and this echo chamber it naturally happens in all social media. I can't explain it. Some psychologists can figure that shit out, but that's where the competition happens. It's like, this poem gets a lot of likes, we got to do what this person's doing. The problem is none of it has depth to it, and it's natural. It's just someone's got to, sooner or later, like the boomers of poets are calling them out on this shit, you know?
Right. Like, yeah, it's easy to have like a four line run-on sentence split up, just get a whole bunch of likes faster than a 14-line sonnet, because it's easier to read 4 lines.
Yeah.
And if they're super general, then it's easier to like it.
Yeah, and we'll get into that later because I don't want to like spoil my notes. But fuck, can I just say one thing about the aesthetically pleasing thing Marcus said? It's okay. I like the minimalist drawing of a flower or the naked lady, but if every fucking poem has a picture of a flower draw, then like fuck off. Like they all have a goddamn flower. I don't know why.
I think
you mean the image of like it's something, but it's like drawn in like one line rather than like specific details and shading.
I know what you mean, and it's very minimalist, which I like. But if everybody fucking does it, it's not cool anymore. I'm sorry.
It's funny that you bring it up. It's like it's not cool because like in general poetry, poetry throughout the years has never been considered cool. If anything, it was considered cool if it was like a really cool rap, or like it was something like very expressive or something. Like like I could like what's an easy example? I could give like a poem about love and how that ruined my day or whatever. But at the same time, that's not gonna get as much attention as like I'm trying to think of an artist off in my head, like Bryson Tiller's
Kendrick Lamar or whatever.
Yeah, like if
I don't know rap.
Okay, easy example. If I write a poem about love, right? That's whatever. Like if I try sharing that to people, they're like, okay, cool. Like I understand what you mean. If I play you "Love" by Kendrick Lamar, like featuring Sakari, I think it's called, you're gonna vibe with that right away because there's a beat to follow. There's whatever. Yeah. You can bop your head along to that.
Yeah.
You can't really do that with poetry as a whole. Poetry is like you could do it with like the internal rhymes, I guess, but
that's true. But like those are two different forms. That's the big thing. But there've been like, you guys were in that class. Remember when our prof showed us that Cinnamon Peeler's Wife poem? I fucking love that poem. Like the guy, it's about love, and there's a bajillion fucking love poems, but this guy expresses love that his wife would smell of his job. Like I've never thought about that before. Like holy fuck, you know. And this guy, he's still alive. He's you know what I mean. Like there is good shit out there.
Yeah. So ultimately, it goes back into what was said before in that what Instagram poetry is lacking, and again, I'm just reiterating, but what Instagram poetry is lacking is really that like individuality that that a poet puts into their work, be it through how they space out their lines, what form they choose, all of that. Hi, Dean here. Because we don't have any ad breaks yet, we'd like to share a quick story recommendation for all of you to check out, be it from a movie, TV show, video game, anime, or whatever. Full disclosure, we weren't sponsored by anyone to say this. These are just our personal picks that we decided to shout out on the spot. I'd like to recommend Helium by Rudy Francisco. I love Thing. It's just a really nice collection of his work, and Rudy Francisco is a really good poet.
I'm just going to recommend 2 quick playlists that I've been listening to. One of them is on Spotify. It's called Soundmark Records. It's 33 hours of poets and authors reading their work. They got, Robert Frost, Ted Hughes, Sylvian Plath, Urza Pound. I also, there's a YouTube channel called Spoken Verse, capital S and Spoken, capital V. That has just a bunch of good poems, and the narrator is really good.
I'll suggest 2 videos, actually. So the first one is... you can find it on the YouTube channel Bun Poetry. It's called Love Languages by Natasha Hooper. It's a very interesting perspective on personal growth from grief. And there's a really nice metaphor with like revolving doors, which is really nice. The second one I would recommend is Akeem Jamal Rollins' The Audacity of Depression, which is also on Bun Poetry. And those are both just really nice videos to let your ears listen to. I don't know how else to describe it. It's beautiful, bro.
It's not poetry, but it is an Instagram artist. Her name is Shaman. It's CHAMANDAHY. And she's got this mysterious aesthetic with witches and kind of almost occultish artwork. And it's just really cool.
So, with all that being said, let's get back to the episode. To quickly touch on what Charbel was saying about how a lot of Instagram poetry feels familiar in the fact that, like, it's broken sentence. It's not broken sentences, but like, very individual lines that can be read off really easily and one-line drawings. We should now probably touch on, personally, the woman that I have always associated that kind of poetry as, Rupi Kaur. I think I don't know if she was really the pioneer in it, or I don't know if really I don't know if she was the pioneer of this kind of Instagram poetry where it was, broken lines. A lot of it feels more like a run-on sentence than it does poetic lines. But the one-line drawings I've definitely associated with her, and I think now that we're going to be talking about notable names in the genre, I think for me she is the most notable out of this group, because for a time, I think early in the mid 2010s, she was everywhere. Like at one point she even came to speak at our university, which I didn't realize at the time, but yeah, she was a huge presence in...
Wait, she did?
Yeah.
What?
Really?
Yeah, Rupi Kaur spoke, I think, in 2017. Yeah, but let's open the discussion about speaking with Rupi Kaur, and I'll let Marie-Soleil kind of kick it off from there.
I had to buy her book for a class.
And? Oh, word? That's crazy. Yo, I just bought a book the other day, bro. Oh, this is crazy.
To buy her book, Milk and Honey, for my Women and Gender Studies class. And I can understand why. She has a lot of, her writing is very modern feminist. That is, I don't know how else to describe her writing other than modern feminist. You flip through the book and there'll be an 11-line poem about how you shouldn't, how she's apologizing to the woman she's called beautiful before acknowledging their intelligence and such. But there's also a 2-line poem that's just, love made the danger in you look like safety. That sounds like something that my 15-year-old self would be like, oh my God, that is just perfect. That is amazing. That is just beautiful. But anybody, I'm pretty sure those words have been put together 1,000 times by 1,000 different people.
Mm-hmm. I think like, yeah, when you bring up modern and feminist, yeah, I think that's kind of what's her style, or like that's kind of what her topics mainly range as. Like I have a copy of her collection, The Sun and Her Flowers, with me, and I also have a copy of Milk and Honey. But just turning or just flipping to a random part, a lot of it either deals with nothing really more than that. Like it has that modern Instagram poetry kind of structure where, but most of the time it is talking about empowering women through experiences, which is great. It's certainly not a bad thing. But at some point, all of it still feels and reads off pretty. I think it's like we were talking about. There isn't really a lot of depth there. So like if I were to turn to, I have this one example, but it's on page 148, and hopefully if anyone is listening to this, please don't report it. I don't know if this is copyright to read her stuff or not, so please just be nice. But page 148 of The Sun and Her Flowers, it is, my mother sacrificed her dreams so I could dream.
Fuck off with that. My mom's literally said that shit to me. This is the shit I'm talking about. You know?
Wait. Can you repeat it? Can you repeat it?
Okay. I'm not kidding. It is, my mother sacrificed her dreams so I could dream. No punctuation, just the two lines, and there is a literally of her mother, or I'm assuming it's her mother, but it's but it's a woman. There.
I'll get into it. I'll talk about that later.
Yeah, and then
thank you.
This is page 121. You are an open wound, and we are standing in a pool of your blood. And then it's -- refugee camp, and then there's a drawing there. and keep in mind, I'm not cherry picking. I'm literally just like scrolling through and picking the one that I see first, right? And this one is on page 106. I have survived far too much to go quietly. Let a meteor take me. Call the thunder for backup. My death will be grand. The land will crack. The sun will eat itself. And then that one is The Day I Leave.
That one that one's like good. That one I'd give a second read.
Yeah,
if that one has some balls.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't want to say that.
Yeah, it's expressive. Like there's a lot. Like she does for all of the ribbing that she had received on social media, which is ironic because like that's how she got popular. Like there is depth to her poetry. Like in a lot of like, I haven't really read through the full collection, but they're in just some of them don't lack a lot of depth while some of them do. But that was just looking at one case. What do you guys think on Rupi Kaur?
I'll go off on her since I jumped in. Yeah, that first poem about like, I'm an immigrant, she's an immigrant, I'm going to take a guess about like, she literally, my mom has said that shit to me, that she's like, yeah, I sacrificed, she didn't say my dream, but she's like, yeah, I left my life in Lebanon to come here so you can have a better life. Like, that's what I'm talking about. Every fucking immigrant says that. And she literally wrote that as a line and made millions. That's what I meant, that there is no depth in some of this Instagram poetry. Again, I'm talking about it as a separate poetic form, and the characteristics of Instagram poetry as a poetic form is direct, which I like. I'm okay with direct, short, ordinary language poems. I'm okay with that. The problem is there's no depth. There's nothing for me to explore. There's nothing for me to reread or think about. It's just very out in the open, very like, I'm sad, may please like my post and scroll on. I checked out some of her work too, I'll be honest. And about the social issues, because poetic forms do have I don't want to say content restrictions, but so traditionally sonnets were about love, which is okay. You don't have to write about love, but that's historical. And this is what Wikipedia says. I'm going to quote them, that Instagram poetry as a poetic form, most of the content was about social issues, which is fine, obviously. But the problem is, if you guys are all saying the same slogan over and over and over again, you're not really growing your movement. You're not really letting it expand or evolve. At the most, if you're just like insulting your enemy, I don't want to say your enemies, that's harsh, but if you're insulting your opponents, that's okay. But don't just insult them personally. Insult their viewpoints and break them down. That's fine. Nobody does that. It's just like a big hug circle. We're right. We're on the right path. And I'm like, well, how do you get to that right path? Anyways, that's my little tangent. The reason I'm bringing this up is she had one poem about and it's on her Instagram. I'm not going to say where it is, but it's on her public Instagram about Mother Nature, about the environment and shit, right? And she's like, we've ruined our only home for confidence and profit, neither of which will be useful once the earth can't breathe. Now, there's an old, I used to have an old indigenous native teacher, and he used to have this big proverb on his classroom that said, when the last, I don't know where this came from, but I've always loved this. It's like, when the last tree is cut, when the last fish has been captured, the last river's polluted, we can't eat money. See, I love that imagery, the idea of just eating money. That's what I mean by depth. It's just those two things I just said are saying the exact same thing. We're killing our planet for profit. She just said it out in the open, direct. No imagery, no metaphor, no nothing. That Aboriginal proverb I said, there's that imagery of eating money, of just like us. It's too late for us to realize the consequence. So exact same shit, exact same social issue, except the Aboriginal one way more deep. The metaphor, the imagery of eating money, and the meaning behind it is just, we don't, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if I'm going off, but that's what I'm trying to get at.
Right. Yeah. I mean, just to generalize, there wasn't really a lot to that. You were right. Like, a lot of immigrant parents have sacrificed a lot for their children, and to have that as such a general experience, like as one note, like I would have loved to have known just what exactly, like what that experience was for her mother, like delving into that and tapping into the emotions. Like, was it a very emotional journey? Was it a lot on her and her mother? Like, that would make it a very personal piece.
Also,
there would be a lot of depth there.
Yeah, and also, like, each immigrant story is different. They're each unique on their own. I would have liked if she had that. I'm not going to rip on her all the time. She did had one good poem, but even I wouldn't say like this is the best out of her work. She had one called Broken English, and I read the whole thing, and it's the same thing. Very, very. The first stanza I like. I'll give it to that. The rest of it is very just like out in the open, nothing to really think about or deep. And it's about it. The message is about like, don't make fun of your parents' broken English, which I was like, it's good. And then I saw her perform it live on Jimmy Fallon, and it wasn't even spoken word. She literally just stressed certain words and stressed some others. And I'm like, anyone who's super mainstream, I already don't trust them. That's just me, but whatever.
Yeah. Marie-Soleil, when you read Milk and Honey, what were your thoughts on thing? If you can remember, like, what your initial thoughts were when you read her collection.
Well, my initial thoughts were like, I could understand why I had to buy this for the class I was in. It was a woman and gender studies class.
Mm-hmm.
But I was also kind of surprised that some of the poems made it into this book, because I thought there would probably be something that could have fit better in my mind. But I, again, haven't read all of her works. But there's some where it's like, yeah, I really like this poem. And do you mind if I read one?
Yeah, go ahead.
So there's a poem it's on page 178 of Milk and Honey. And like in the moment, I really like this poem, and I still like it. It's very simple and such, but you were a dragon long before he came around and said you could fly. You will remain a dragon long after he's left. And it's one of those simple, to the point, but it's also very direct and very like, in my mind, it was comforting. Like, that one poem was just very comforting. Like, you are an amazing person before other people come into your life. You'll be an amazing person after they've left.
Mm-hmm.
But there are also some, like I mentioned earlier, there's the one on page 104 that's just love made the danger in you look like safety. And I've heard that said in different ways over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
This is not Rupi Kaur. This is another one. I've been saving them on my phone because I'm a bastard. Listen to this. This is on that account. This is the account I've been checking out. It's called Poets of Instagram. It's called Poets of Instagram, and it has 3.3 million followers. So this is like the spotlight of poems. Look at this one. It's called. I'm not gonna say what it's called. It says, "Your life is your story. Don't let anyone else write it for you." Like, fuck right off with that. I'm sorry.
Wow. I guess we can. That'd be a good thing actually to explore that afterwards. But I think, Marcus, do you have any opinions on Rupi Kaur, or like thoughts, opinions, things to say in general?
We're talking about Rupi Kaur right now because after I do want to bring up another poet that does come to mind. What I do really appreciate about the fact with Rupi Kaur and how she started with this poetry journey is that it's because all the people I know who have read it who like love it to bits. It's very like, and I've read it too in like my own like setting where like I can sit down and I can take in everything, not just hear like another opinion and be like, oh yeah, it's all right. Like I had time to actually properly, like, I don't want to say meditate because meditate seems like a very, I want to say hipster word, but like, like take it in, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I do appreciate the fact it's very, one, it's very empowering to both, it's very empowering as like to oneself and reminder to, people who consider themselves as the gender of a woman, as like, you have your importance, you're important or whatever, and it gets that point very straight ahead. I do appreciate the fact that it talks about these concepts that can be explained. It talks about I do appreciate the fact that like you said with I think it was the dragon poem, it was very straight to the point of like, TLDR, you're a bad bitch. You're still a bad bitch. Fuck that guy. You know what I mean?
That could literally, I swear that could be a poem right there. You're a bad bitch.
Like
You're a baddie.
Sure
you're a bad bitch. Somewhere. Be a bad bitch. Fuck them. I do appreciate that, and I do appreciate the fact that it's in like, because of her doing these things, it's introduced a lot more people into the poetry world. What makes me very hesitant to talk about her in a positive way other than those contexts is the fact that it's introduced the masses to poetry, but I think it's introduced them to a type of poetry that is very, I don't want to say lazy, because honestly, like, haikus are really short, like syllable count, etc., and those still get to the point, and those can take like so long to write, like a perfect haiku. What I think about it is the fact that it reminds me of amateur hour, and what I mean by that is it reminds me like a lot of stanzas like lines of poetry you would write down in your phone, and then, or like you write down a scrap of paper and then revisit to like expand upon. It just reminds me of that. It just reminds me of like rough drafts that never got the chance to be refined.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that's the word I'm really looking for. It doesn't feel refined to me. It just feels very mismatch, like, oh, this sounds poetic enough, like, sure, whatever.
It's like the skeleton, but there's no meat to the bones.
It's
simplistic.
Yes, but also with what Charbel said, it's what's it called? It's
There's no substance.
it's like you're giving me a fork without the food, and I'm like, what the hell is this? You're literally shoving this fork into my mouth, and I'm like, all I taste is metal. I do not taste any food.
My hands.
Yeah, like it could be a really nice fork, but ultimately there's still no food. At the end of it.
It's a really it could be a really nice fork, really nice fork in the sentiment of like it could have like nice craftsmanship, a nice intention behind it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But you're not giving me these things that I think go along with it. Because yeah, you could eat a fork. Like you could like most definitely eat a fork. Like you can try to eat a fork, swallow like that down into your system, but it's gonna it's not gonna make you feel good after. You know what I mean?
I guess in a way he has a point, but also probably be careful when you're eating forks.
I forget. Shit, sorry. What Marcus just said though, that yes, the masses have been introduced to poetry, and yes, sadly, it's not a good form of poetry. I just want to build upon by saying, like, when we get the boomers poets involved, there's going to be a big shock and awe when they're like, well, what? I'll talk about it later, but it's like, why don't you like my stuff? Well, that's going to be a big shock when those two generations hit.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I guess seeing as we've introduced, seeing as we've talked about one of the most notable names within this kind of poetry, let's talk about another one.
For me, I think the biggest one that comes to mind alongside Rupi Kaur is I actually have two poets of mine that I want to talk about, but he goes by the name of R.H Sin, and he's also a notable Instagram poet, whatever. He has like 8 books published in like 5 years, which sounds kind of like, oh wow, that's pretty amazing. But then again, it's like really short poems that should not like. What am I trying to say? So what? R.H Sin, I have a lot of negative sentiment towards, because it was Instagram poetry, which still pushes me like to the side and like makes me feel uneven some days, but it's Instagram poetry that was very manipulative in some aspects, because the usual topics would come up within the Instagram poetry, it's like, oh, break up, he's not worth it, fuck him, like your ex is horrible, you're the better person, etc., etc. But the thing is, he implied all these toxic mindsets to individuals, where me as a person who identifies as a male and reading all these poems about how this guy was literally making rows of Instagram posts, like hundreds of them, where it was talking about breakup, and he would only talk about the fact of like it was the guy's fault in the situation, or like, you don't need that guy, I'm the better guy, or like it was just this constant reminder of like, oh, I guess I'm a shitty person, or something like that. It made me feel really shitty.
Yeah, would you say it's almost pick me kind of energy?
It was very
does it feel very pick me,
petty,
the kind of poetry?
I'm sorry,
does the poetry then feel kind of like, like, are you familiar with pick me people?
I hear the word. I hear the word used a lot, but at the same time, I don't think I
like the Sims who are like, you should date me instead of that guy.
Not that. So pick me energy. So pick me energy, or pick me men, pick me women, are basically men or women that kind of go with a certain narrative that people portray, but don't have the pure intention with it. So someone who's a pick me girl is basically like, how do I explain this? It's agreeing with a lot of narratives that had been brought up by men just to be cool with men, I think. And I'm butchering the explanation terribly, but in this case, what I'm trying to get at is for R.H Sin, who I know of does a lot of poetry that, you know, is like, you know, fuck men, they aren't good for relationships, whatever. And as a, you know, as a man, or as a person who identifies as a man who feels offended by that, like, that in itself is like, it could kind of be interpreted, and I'm not hard stating, but it can kind of be interpreted that R.H Sin is like, you know, girls, I agree with you, it's all good, but like the fact that it's being used for monetary gain feels a little bit that is weird to me. And that's why I say it does a channel kind of like pick me energy.
I think it channels the same concepts of Instagram poetry, where it's very short and precise and whatever, but it very much so pushes this narrative of like, yeah, it was like, don't blame yourself, it was all this person's fault. Like, I am literally scrolling through
Yo, me too, actually.
His Instagram right now, and I'll just click on a random one.
Before we get to that, I just want
to
sorry, Marcus, before we get to that, I do just want to clarify. So looking up pick me on Urban Dictionary, which isn't a reliable source, but it is a street, you know, but it is urban language, I guess.
It's the streets.
Yeah, a pick me, or the top definition is, a pick me is a woman that is willing to do anything for male approval, but it's not just women, right? Like, there are men who are willing to do anything for female approval, or, you know, some other kind of way. It's like approaching something with the wrong intention, kind of. And again, I'm not saying that that's what R.H Sin channels, but like, that's just what kind of came to my head.
I do think he channels the right intentions of wanting to relate to an individual, but I think he channels it in a way where I think it channels them in a way where it gives self-empowerment as much as Rupi Kaur would do, with how like, oh, don't feel this way about this situation, feel this way in another perspective. But it's very much so just like it displays a lot of ignorance, I want to say, because it's like it's very just, it's I remember going on Instagram and following all these poets, because I really wanted to just like understand more poetry more. And R.H Sin was literally one of the first people I followed. And every day I'd go on my feed, I'd go look through his all the poems he posted, and majority of them just gave the sentiment that like, hey, you suck for breaking this girl's heart, or you didn't break his heart, he broke your heart, which is the reason why you broke up with him, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And one, it preys on the fact that like, it preys on people who like, it preys on teenagers who can't comprehend their emotions. I don't want to say correctly, but in a very organized manner, if you know what I got. It preys on that sentiment, and at the same time it preys on insecurity, and it empowers an individual, saying like, you're like, the whole sentiment of like, be a badass bitch or whatever, but be a badass bitch because he's a bitch, you know what I mean? Like, it gives that sentiment at the same time.
Yeah, there's a certain way of like phrasing said kind of meaning, I think.
Yeah, like this one. Here we go. It has 57K likes on it. Don't make her think you care when you have never given a fuck about her. What?
Wow. Yeah.
Wow.
That's like, I don't know what it is. It's assuming that the person already has negative intent. I have no dog in this fight. I can't really. I have something else I want to say about him later.
Another one is like scene 7. It's called Scene 17. Fight for her while she still gives a fuck, because one day you'll be too late. Oh really? I didn't really.
Really?
Word?
Cheat? I'm down.
Oh, word?
Yeah.
Another one. Sometimes she hides because she knows that the one who truly loves her will see everything she's locked away. Like, okay, that has a nice story behind it. Like, oh, she's hiding, like, the you're playing with the fact that she's hiding, while at the same time she's hiding the stuff that she's afraid to show other people. Like, that comes through. But it's like, it's, I feel, what do I see? I feel like I just ate food that wasn't seasoned at all. Like, it just gave me my fill of, look, I read something today. I feel okay. Like, I'm proud about the fact I read a book. Like, I read something for once. Like, I'm not just mindlessly scrolling on like social media or anything. It's just, I'm not trying to feel like a piece of shit, no matter what.
Wait,
I don't think anyone is trying to.
But I have one. How can I say this? I have no dog in that fight. But what I want to say is, when we were talking about the idea of trying to omit a emotion from your viewer on Instagram or whatever as quick as you can, what's his name? Stein or whatever?
R.H. Sin.
I was looking at his stuff. He literally does it to the core because he uses you. He writes in the second person narrative. Because you know how we were talking about before, like a lot of these Instagram poets, they try to get the same emotion out of their viewer so you relate. He does it literally. He just puts into you the second narrative, and he's like, "You are a bad bitch." Well, let's say Rupi Kaur, the other poets would be like, "A bad bitch likes this," or whatever. You know what I mean? Which is smart, shitty. It's the same crap. Very direct and bland and nothing special, but it's smart that he went straight to the core and used the use. Yeah, I give him props for it, even though it might be toxic or whatever.
Yeah. I'll touch on the toxicity in a minute, actually, because that's, I think, important to address overall. But
I will bring up another poem. It's called All the Mighty. And it says, "Powerful women are tired of trying for lovers who never try for them." Like, again, like, what? Like, I think, like, four is used twice. There's, like, barely, like, I'm pretty sure the number of words used in the poem is, like, barely over 10. But it gives this sentiment of, like, oh, you're a powerful woman, but like the other person is not. So it's very.
I'm pretty sure that's also an episode of Sex and the City. Like, I'm pretty sure I've seen this cliche before of, like, you're the strong woman, you don't need no man. I've seen it in so many sitcoms. You know, it's nothing special, but the title is badass. But that's cheesy.
It's very cheesy. It's like, okay, it's like you give. Okay, it's like if I'm giving an ice. Okay, let's say I am R.H. Sin, and I have two people in front of me, and they both ask me, "Hey, can I have an ice cream cone?" I give the girl like a proper ice cream cone, like everything on top, sprinkles, whatever, double scooped, like pretty much the best thing you could ever give for it. And right. I give the I give the other person, I give him the ice cream. I give him ice cream in a cup with a fork, not even a fork, a toothpick. Like, and I just go like, "Here you go." Like, yes, I'm giving you the same ice. Like, yes, I'm giving you ice cream that you both wanted, but at the same time, I'm giving this person more bias. If you like, you get what the metaphor is.
Yeah,
yeah. It's also, like, some people are just born to make money. I'm not assuming anything, but maybe he's sitting there and he knows, hey, a lot of people on Instagram and social media are like 15 to 25, you know, the millennials. They've got that hormones and shit. They're going through all these breakups and shit. I can make money off this if I just say the word you feel sad because you broke up, and then boom, I don't know if you heard my finger snap. He's fucking making a fortune. Well, I'm not assuming he's doing that or anything, but it could be the system.
Yeah, I just fucking imagined R.H. Sin with like the Infinity Gauntlet, and he's just like, aha, the first stone of poetry, millennials. The second stone with like Instagram.
He has like demographic economics and shit.
Like,
he's
demographic economics
of breakups and shit, and he's like ready to write it out.
You know that scene in Endgame, or like Scarlet Witch is like looking at Thanos and she's like, I hate you, you took everything away from me, and this man's like, I don't even fucking know you, like who, like
Okay, all right. Before wait, hold up. let's not get too obscure with the movie references.
Okay.
I got what you guys are going for with the Infinity Stone thing, but like let's dial it back just a little bit.
That's too funny. We'll cut it out in post production.
Yeah, but like TLDR, I do not like R.H Sin. I do not like him at all. I don't know if Charbel has another poet he wants to bring up, but I also have a second one. So
yeah, well,
I'll make it quick.
Yeah.
No, I'm done. I literally just had those two guys. You guys go for it.
Okay. Well, I mean, before we get to that, we unfortunately haven't talked with Marie-Soleil about her opinion on R.H Sin in a while.
Yeah, Mary. I'm so sorry.
Pretty much cleared the air on it. Like, I've hit the pick me energy was kind of high on that, and he knows his audience. He's targeting an audience, and he's hitting that target. And it's the 15 to like 20-year-olds, and I would have fit into that at 15 years old. I know I would have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like
facts.
Here's the thing, and I was going to address I guess what we've been talking about so far. So like addressing the pick me thing and all that. Like, again, I'm not like hard saying that he is a pick me, but when it comes to tapping into narratives like this, and keep in mind that I am a cis man saying this, but nevertheless, it still feels a little bit weird that he is handling this kind of narrative like this, because if you want to empower women, saying fuck all men is something compared to saying, hey, you're a beautiful person. You never needed this person in the first place. Right? Like that is, I think, one, like those two kinds of similarities as a cis man make me feel some kind of way, because I definitely have agreed that men can suck. Hard fact. I definitely know that. But at the same time, I know how more important it is to hear that you yourself are a special person. You don't need to always be blaming the other person for what happened, right? Because then it's just a recycled cycle of blaming. There isn't really, and that kind of anger is something that some people don't really need to hear when they're in a very shitty situation. So like if they're in a breakup, like, yeah, there's a certain period where you're just blaming everyone for their mistakes, right? And taking accountability for your own self is something that happens afterwards. If you are still constantly blaming blaming the person, which in this case, if the woman is still constantly blaming the man, then not only will that discourage a lot of other men from dating relationships, it paints a very dangerous narrative in general, which basically just says, yeah, fuck all men, which to a degree I can kind of understand, but that is also very dangerous to a lot of young men who are encountering this kind of poetry, or encountering a lot of people who love this kind of poetry. Because then, again, it just kind of perpetuates the idea that all men are shit regardless of whatever happens. Right? And I'm probably taking this out of context, so please do keep that in mind, but said narrative in general is dangerous, especially if it is very pick-me. Right? Yeah. Because if you are writing this kind of poetry for female approval, that's one thing. Writing it for female empowerment is a whole other thing. And I think that is the most important thing that you should be tapping into. Female empowerment shouldn't be based on just saying fuck everyone else. It is believing in yourself. And that is empowerment, I think, at its core.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Barry's, you have anything to say?
Yeah, Marie-Soleil, what do you think on that?
I don't have anything to say that hasn't been said.
Okay.
Facts, no printer, no Xerox.
Yeah.
No text message. Facts.
Well, it's good that it is facts, because I was just speaking for myself. I wasn't really speaking for everyone else, but
I agree with Dean though. It makes sense to me. What he said. And same with like Marcus. Marcus probably was going off the same spot.
Yeah, like
he gives me the vibe that he has a lot of female, like he gives me the vibe that he has a lot of female friends, and he listens to like either like I don't want to be like stereotypical, you know what I mean? But like he listens to their breakup stories or whatever, and he gives them all of his empathy. But at the same time, he's not willing to go reach out to the other party and see what happens. Like he's acting as if I forget what's the word, but I know the metaphor is like judge, jury, executioner. If you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like I think him in that context just follows like that narrative really like to a T.
Yeah, like I had gone on my long, kind of rant. I think tapping into narratives like this is dangerous, because if your poetry is meant to empower people, then I think R.H. Sin's poetry isn't really hitting that mark, I don't think, because it's solely just putting the blame onto something else. It's kind of like a friend coming at you and saying, yeah, fuck this person, right? Which in some cases is fine, especially when you're still very emotional about the situation and you need some kind of outlet. But when you're stuck with yourself and you need to believe in yourself after all of that shitty thing had happened to you, especially in shitty relationships, it's nice to have something to believe in. Mm-hmm. And when that belief is still rooted in anger and blaming the other person, I don't think that's good for anyone, right? Like you can have, it's fine to channel all of your anger into like I had said, if you have a shitty boyfriend or if you had a shitty relationship, it's fine to be angry about it for a while, but when it's still just the anger leaving in you, then you're not really empowered anymore. You're just angry.
Also, like, what if you just switch to genders? What if you wrote the same thing but for men, and you're like, you're a boss, it's all her fault, fuck that bitch, like you guys would say the exact same thing.
That's another narrative then.
Have been switched, you know what I mean? If he did the exact same thing but switched to genders, it's still toxic,
Yeah, it's another dangerous narrative.
Bro, I just imagined a poem called like Kingdom, and it's like, yes, you were the prince with the crown of a king, but she was a peasant who tried to be your queen. Like, shut up.
No.
Touches the floor.
Okay, well, I think before we kind of get too lost in discourse again,
yo, wait, didn't Marcus mention someone? He said he had a second pick.
Yeah, so Marcus, you can talk about them.
I would like to make a quick disclaimer. If you like this person, I'm very sorry, but I will say this. I will say this once, and I will not repeat myself. Dandelion by Gabbie Hanna, the biggest waste of trees that I've ever read.
Hold on, is this on Instagram? Let me check this shit out.
Okay, for people who are unaware, Gabbie Hanna is a YouTuber. You may know her by Gabbie Show, I believe. She published a book. It radiates all the same vibes of Instagram poetry, but it makes me wonder, like, one, who edited it? Two, was this just like a bucket list thing, and you're just like, I have the money to do it, so why not? And three, there is so much wasted potential in in each poem that radiates out. Like, I remember when it first came out, I went to Walmart and I skimmed through like some pages, and I was like, okay,
did you like watch her on YouTube before? Like, were you
No. I never watched her on YouTube. So I had no experience as like, oh, I'm a fan reading her poetry or whatever. I just read it as like a person from the outside. And I remember skimming through the pages, and I was just like, it's okay. It's all right. Oh, look, I read something today. Okay, now it's time for me to go home. And then literally 6 months after, there was the same amount of books on the shelf. Like, I'm pretty sure it was like I was touching the same book that I read like 6 months ago. And then again, 6 months.
That's hilarious.
And then even like even now it makes me really sad to read because okay, I will read a poem. I will read a poem. Okay.
Okay. So give us a little hit because I'm not gonna buy the damn thing. I couldn't find it for free.
No.
Just a question.
It's Gabbie Hanna.
Oh no. Okay. All right.
Okay. So there is a poem called "Relative." Okay. Are you ready for this? Time is relative. Beauty is relative. Family is relatives. And that's fucking it. Like, excuse me?
I don't know what you're talking about, Marcus. That was the greatest poetry I've ever heard.
Okay, here's another one. This one, I have it ingrained into my memory, and every time I think about it, it pisses me off. I'm just, okay? It's called Iron, okay? When I was young, my mom used to check if the iron was hot by touching it. And I don't know. I just feel like there's a metaphor in there somewhere.
Excuse me? Is that really?
Excuse me?
Oh
Excuse
my
me?
god.
You know what? I'll be honest. Rupi Kaur is looking pretty good right now. And same with R.H Sin. I like this guy more now after reading Gabbie.
Excuse me? You don't tell me, oh yeah, there's a metaphor in there. You don't straight up tell me. You show.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Hell?
That was you saying it. I didn't know that was the actual poem. Tell me there's
the actual
Oh
poem,
my
bro.
god, it's hilarious.
What the fuck?
Concealer. I wear makeup because I have acne. I have acne because I wear makeup.
Oh my.
Oh,
yeah,
word?
man. You can't. Yeah, I love it.
I drink water. I drink water because I'm thirsty. Water is gone because I'm thirsty. Like, hello. Oh,
I've heard.
How did you find this? You just found this in chapters. You'd never seen.
I found it at Walmart, and I was like, don't I know this girl? And I was trying to think. I was like, wait, she's from YouTube. And then I read through it, and I was like, I had to double check, and I was like, excuse me. I had this. It was the first poetry book that made me not want to read for the rest of the day. It fried my brain.
I love it. It's so fucking funny.
Fried my brain.
I'll explain later why that got published. I don't know which segment.
I think.
Okay.
I think while we're on this, I think that's a pretty important thing to address. Influencer media in general is such a miss.
Okay, can I talk about this? This is the science. I figured it out. Okay, so everything we talked about, I'm on board. Imagine this. So imagine I'm a boomer. Pretend I'm a boomer editor. I got a magazine or whatever. And this millennial Instagram influencer, whatever, gives me their poetry and it sucks. It obviously sucks. I'm a boomer. I've read the crazy shit from the 90s and 80s and whatever. Mm-hmm. Anyways, before I throw his stuff in the garbage, the millennial kid is like, wait a minute. I have 5,000 followers on Instagram, and they like my posts hundreds every day. Now, hold on. $5 books times it by 5,000 followers, that's $25,000. I'm here to make a couple of money. I'm not saying all editors are doing this, but some publishers, some publications, especially something big like Penguin Press, they have the money that they'll publish anything. And even if they take a loss, they don't give a shit because they'll survive. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Small time publishers, they will reject that kid, no question asked. But the big time publishers who can take a couple of losses, they'll publish that shit. Oh, you got 5,000 followers? Fuck yeah, we'll publish your stuff. We don't give a shit. It's garbage. If we make 25K off it, that's a success. Even if we lost money, we still have you within our contract that we can get more work out of you and you'll make money in the long run. And obviously, if you're a millennial influencer, you're looking to get paid, but you're not really breaking the boundaries of language at this point, you know?
Yeah. I think to kind of transition actually into our next, or kind of our penultimate topic, which is what's wrong with Instagram poetry, we can kind of, or how I can kind of tie into that is what's wrong with Instagram poetry is kind of really, it's kind of based on numbers rather than passion, Right. And I can say that because Gabbie Hanna's poetry, haven't read it, never will read it. I've heard a lot of memes about it, and generally, like I've said, I think a lot of influencer media in particular is very much a miss because they lack, I obviously don't want to say this for a lot of cases, but like when it comes to just kind of prioritizing numbers, there isn't really a lot of understanding of the craft itself. Like, you can kind of, to a degree, imagine that Instagram poets who started off just doing poetry, or like who understand doing this, such as Rupi Kaur and R.H Sin, they kind of know who their audience is, what form they do, and so on. When it comes to us, for example, we have a very small platform, but we have been writers for a very long time. We understand how to write. We understand how to write prose, how to write poetry, how to write different forms of whichever one. So regardless, though we might be content creators now, we still are writers at heart. But when it comes to people like Gabbie Hanna, who started off just as influencers, and I'm not sure what her credit is as a poet, but like starting off just as influencers, it's the numbers that attract publishing companies. Like Charbel said, that kind of number draws in, and it'll be like, it'll make this much money, and basically that's where I think it lies. It's quantity over quality, which I think someone had already mentioned up until this point. So that's what I think is one of the bigger issues that goes with what's wrong with Instagram/influencer poetry in general.
This is you touched on it also real quick about that they don't have the knowledge of the craft. And there was one article I read a while ago about he's a writer, he has all these awards and whatever, but he said that like the reason Shakespeare is still around today, or Charles Bukowski or any Robert Frost, whatever, is not because they're old. It's because there is a complexity and beauty in writing that these guys mastered. And then he listed a bunch of contemporary poets that are still alive today who nailed that complexity and beauty. And he says Instagram poets are not doing that. There is it's what I'm going to say. This is my thoughts. What he said was smart. I'm paraphrasing it. What I'm saying is, horoscopes. If you ever read a horoscope, they're written exactly what we said before. They're written in that very generic, bland way that anyone could relate anything. And Instagram poets are the exact same thing. They're written in a way where you can relate to it. Doesn't matter who you are. You'll see horoscopes like, you're gonna succeed in your struggles today. Anybody could relate to that. Any fucking buddy. And Instagram poets are the exact same thing. It's literally just horoscope poetry. That's what I'm calling it, honestly.
That's a good way of saying it.
Not wrong.
Facts.
Yeah. Marie-Soleil, what do you think? Out of everything that we've been addressing so far, like, what is at least one thing that you think is wrong with Instagram/influencer poetry?
And I think the same way with TikTok and TikTok stars. People got famous doing it. Like, people got attention. It got popular right away and everything. People can't start doing that now and get to the same level of popularity. Mm-hmm. It's kind of a closed niche to an extent.
Yeah.
If I was going to start doing Instagram poetry like tomorrow, I'd be a copycat. Basically, what we were saying. Not a open market to get into, if that makes sense. And this isn't so much a critique of the style, because some of the style is all right. This is more of a critique of it as a genre on its own. If that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it feels like, and feel free to correct me, but it feels like pretty easy to get into. Like, it's easy to start just writing stuff out of nowhere and probably get a few likes from friends, and then maybe if you put hashtags, a few likes from a lot of other people. But like, really, it's still just meeting some kind of demand for likes. Mm-hmm. Like, it's still like you're still just like regurgitating words that are very generic and very general for likes. There isn't really a lot of creativity and passion there. Like as a, Marie-Soleil, as a fantasy writer, like you and I can both kind of attest that like our worlds and our characters and the interactions between both kind of, that's what makes this, like the fantasy genre unique, regardless if it's set in, regardless if it's set in your own original world or if it's a fan fiction. Like what you do with the material makes it work. And with Instagram influencer poetry, there isn't really a lot to go with if at the heart of it is just based on likes, or it's based on attracting a following.
And you have to find your niche too, because there are only so many popular concepts, and if you try to follow, nobody has an original idea. You can say that every popular idea has been taken. Percy Jackson is Greek mythology fan fiction. It's written in a unique way.
Homie. I literally just bought like a thrifted set of like the Percy Jackson books, and I'm like, this is my childhood. But then at the same time, you're actually right. It's just fan fiction.
It's Greek mythology, but it's written in such a way that it's a unique story of a hero and a someone that 12-year-olds can identify with.
Yeah. With
Instagram poetry, at this point, it's gotten to the point where anybody who tries to get into it will just be, they're just copying what's already been done, trying to get famous because other people have gotten famous doing this.
Mm-hmm. Like, if you were to start uploading poetry, I think for anyone really listening, like if you were to start uploading poetry, like if you were to start uploading haikus, if you were to start uploading rondeaus, if you were to start uploading prose poetry, spoken word, sonnets, incantations, if you were to start doing that on your own, that's fine. But if you were trying to become an Instagram poet, then that means adhering to the kind of structure that it is, which in itself isn't really working.
Yeah,
that's a good point, actually. Also, I asked a bunch of writers, my profs basically, about this, about, if you post your work online, how does that work? And they're like, a lot of editors kind of don't like that because they want someone that no one's known about, A, and B, there's a lot of legality over Instagram technically owns that property, so they can't take your poems and publish it. That's why you'd see a lot of the Instagram posts we talked about, they would take a picture of a page from their book. They would never, you know what I mean? Like, there's a whole shit show there.
Mm-hmm. I'm just realizing this now, actually, now that you bring that up. Does that mean that the InkGuild owns the copyrights of everyone's stories?
No. It doesn't. That's when you make it's. I'm not even 100% on it, but I've heard some shit like that about Instagram can't control your posts and use it for social marketing or whatever. Like if you have a really cool picture, they can use that for a commercial.
Fair enough.
Good. I didn't give you any of my poems. Loser.
I win.
I've shared pretty much my entire novel on this fucking channel, but I mean, anyway, that's a whole other tangent, I think. Let's not get into that because I'll be sad. Marcus, what do you think is one, of the things that we've been talking about tonight, what's wrong with Instagram poetry? What's one other thing that you want to add onto that?
I guess the biggest thing I would hope for is that people don't. I guess the biggest advice I can give, and like the biggest hope I have, is that if people are trying to get into poetry, please, in all regards, do not start with Instagram poetry.
Yes.
Like in any regard, because I think that just it limits you to like it. One, it makes you feel limited on like it makes you feel limited. When in reality, if you're writing on a piece of paper, that shouldn't feel limited at all because you have all the space to like write and draft and whatever. Two, I think you're setting yourself up for disappointment if you're going to take poetry seriously.
Also, check out the stuff we've recommended.
it takes a long time to become famous over social media.
Mm-hmm.
Especially in this age, it's such an oversaturated market.
Yeah. I think especially... sorry, Charbel, go ahead.
No, the disappointment Marcus said, it's going to be a shock, and you're not going to be happy with it.
Yeah, and I mean, like, if you're purely going into it just to get famous, that shouldn't be your intention anyway, right? And this is a whole other thing, but like the reason why this YouTube channel was created was because we as creative writers have a lot of opinions on things, but at the end of it, we're all friends, and it's fun for me at least getting to know more about what we think, or what Marcus thinks on this, or what Marie-Soleil thinks on this, or what Gabe, Alex, Brooke, what we all think, right? Like, ultimately, it's a way.
Oh, wait, what? Wait, what? This was a place for opinions? I thought it was a place for us to cyberbully you, bro.
I'm just
that's crazy, bro. I didn't know that. I didn't know that until now.
Like, it's just a way for friends to have a platform to share what we all collectively what we all collectively love, and that is creative writing, right? Be in whatever form. And it is that kind of passion really that makes this project fun still. Like, we are at 88 subscribers on YouTube, and we have yet to make this audio only. But that, I don't think in the year that we've been doing this has that passion really changed. And to go back on topic, when it comes to, this is just a general thing for any kind of art really, but if you're going into it with the sense of just getting famous and copying what has already been done, then you might be living in a nice house, but you would have cheated your way getting there.
Well, also, that's one good thing about Instagram poetry as a platform, not as a poetic form. As a platform, it is kind of cool. We can all this is just modern technology that we can all connect. Writers from across the world can talk to each other.
Yeah, we can certainly appreciate what's right with it.
I can literally say the same thing about like medieval ages and how it was really cool that I could send this guy to run 25 kilometers to this other guy a letter. Like I can literally say the same thing.
Yeah, eat that argument, Charbel.
Yeah, okay, good point. Have you how would that work? How the fuck would someone in England be like, hey, you hear about this Shakespeare guy in Italy or some shit?
Just
Shakespeare? Italian?
I'm so confused. Don't worry about it.
Okay, so back to what I was saying. If you're gonna get into poetry, do not start with Instagram poetry. Start at least with expanding on these realms of form. So prose, haikus, tonkas, American sentences, spoken word, etc., 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 or like even mantras or even incantations at that point.
Mm-hmm.
With that, you set yourself with multiple ways to like branch off and diverse, rather than placing yourself in this I want to say like placing yourself in this tunnel. And when you do want to branch off, you'll be like you're pretty much out of the blue of like I have no clue what I'm doing. And I'm hoping if like more people do that, where they don't start necessarily with Instagram poetry, we'll see that depth, we'll see that detail that we're all looking for, that like a lot of people like in the poetry community are looking for, rather than seeing the stuff where just like, oh, okay, whatever, and we shrug it off. Yeah, place yourself in this perspective of having multiple doors yourself to expand yourself with artists as well, and also with your comfortability. Because if you're stuck in one thing, in one genre only, and that's the only thing you can really do right, I don't think that's the best way to start out, especially if you're trying to make this like a career. But then again, don't try to make it a career because of the fact is like, yo, if I get like 1 million Instagram followers, bro, I'm gonna get all that ad revenue. Like, haha, like, it's like with those doors open, we'll get all of the things slowly going into Instagram poetry. We'll get the detail, we'll get the scenery, we'll get all these metaphors and stuff, the reiterations, the elaborations, etc., etc., etc. And what I just hope for in the future is that it's like right now, Instagram poetry is just at its baby steps. Like this isn't what it's going to be defined as once we jump like 1,000 years into the future. It'll continue to progress because obviously when people started trying to do haikus, it didn't sound like the greatest thing in the world. It was just like 577, like what the hell? Why are we talking about numbers? Like, bruh. But now it's like this thing that's like really revered over. So honestly, I'm staying optimistic right now. I'm staying optimistic. If I get proven wrong, then fuck me, bro. I'll just happily dig my own grave at that point. But
fair enough. That was really well said. I guess anyone else want to contribute some advice then to help close off the episode?
I know I talked a lot of shit, but I critique because like Marcus said, I want us to get better. Who knows what's gonna happen who even knows what's gonna happen with social media and all that stuff. But I'm like, if this is the best that we have right now as a poetic form, that's not good shit. And even let's say someone does really fuck up, really change the atmosphere, and the problem is if they're still on Instagram, you're still in that circle jerk of getting posts, you know. So it's a weird thing. I don't want to say move away from it, and maybe just, but well, you know, like it's weird. But yeah, definitely check out. Don't even just, you don't have to focus on forms. You can write in free form, but you still got to think about the ideas of like alliteration. How does this poem sound as you're reading it out loud? How does this metaphor, does this metaphor cool? Does this imagery work? Is there any parts where my reader could get confused from? How pronouns and shit, you know, do these rhymes even work? You can definitely make it more complicated as you can.
Yeah. Marie-Soleil, any advice?
Don't let, like, we're criticizing Instagram poetry, but don't let the fact that a group of 20-something-year-olds on the internet are shitting on this stop you from writing.
Yeah.
People are going to criticize any type of poets. Like Dr. Seuss was being criticized recently. Shel Silverstein is being criticized, and while I do like some of his poems, I do not like that man himself. Everybody gets criticized at one point in their lives. Don't let that stop you from writing.
And I guess for me to close it off in terms of advice, remember that poetry is in itself creative writing, and creative writing is best when it is personal.
Yes.
I think when I'm saying personal, I mean let your words speak for yourself. Whichever adverbs, whichever adjectives, nouns, pronouns you want to use in your piece, let that be spoken true from yourself. Don't rely on Instagram poets or poetry pages in general to tell you what that structure is, because though you may be writing a prose poetry like myself, or if you're going to try attempting spoken word like Marcus, or if you're just trying to figure out what the hell an American sentence is, once you figure it out, then it is up to you to make it personal, and it is up to that personality that makes it special. Because like poetry, prose in itself is also very personal, and creative writing is meant to be expressive. It's an art form, and it's not beautiful when it looks similar to something else. It's not special when it's the same, basically. And I think with that, we can close off tonight's discussion. So thanks everybody for listening in. You can find the InkGuild online, the InkGuild on YouTube, at the InkGuild on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. We are also on Twitch, but we don't stream that often. But if you still want to follow us, it is at the InkGuild_Twitch. We have a website, the inkguild.wixsite.com. We also have, our respective social media will be down in the description for both Marie-Soleil and myself. But as well, Charbel, where can we find you on social media? If you want
yeah,
to
just
give
I'm
your-
almost on Instagram. Just at this dude 7. I don't post a lot, but I do occasionally.
Marcus, where can we find you
Um,
if you want to give it away?
I have stuff planned in the works. It's just I still need to like figure everything out. So at the moment, I will not be out any. So yeah.
Okay, so he'll be keeping his under wraps for now. And typically we like to do a closing segment, and I like to ask this after the podcast, but I would like something on record. Charbel, Marcus, for your guys' debut, I guess, with the InkGuild, what'd you guys think?
I had fun. We talked about so much from so many different angles, and honestly, that's what a podcast should be about. You know, just natural discussion, and we hit so many ballparks, so it was good. I hope the reader had fun. I'm pretty sure the reader will.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the listener.
I am not transcribing this entire fucking episode. It is going to take way too long. Marcus, how about you? What'd you think?
Pretty fun time. I got to meme a bit, which is funny. Really happy about that. I guess I have 2 more pieces of advice that just came into mind. One, hey yo, did you drink water today? Go, if you're listening to this, go to your kitchen right now and go drink some water, because homie, water is important. If you listen to the blooper before, you'll know why. And then
you get thirsty when there's no water.
Yeah, that's what we mean,
bro. Bro. Hear me out. You drink water when you're thirsty. You're thirsty when you don't drink water. Yo, boom. Yo, someone publish that. I'm writing a book, man. But I guess like the biggest advice that I have is that it's very common to write cliches in poetry. But like the best poetry comes when like you wrote a poem about a cliche in a way that no one has ever heard before. And that's literally all we're asking from Instagram poetry. And we're hoping that comes from it. But I very much enjoyed the fact that I had this really open discussion with all of y'all. And I can't wait to come back and roast the shit out of Dean and remind y'all to drink water. So yeah, thank you.
You and everyone else in this project.
Yeah. By the way, yo, you drink water yet?
I have been drinking water.
No, not you, them.
Oh, sorry.
Yo, I haven't actually. I'm getting thirsty.
Yeah,
I like downed a 2 liter.
Oh boy,
Well,
drink some water right now. On go.
Yeah, right now this is our water break, but for everyone else, this is the end of the episode. So thanks everyone for listening. Tune in to the episode 39, which is coming out next week. And with all that being said, thanks for listening. Have a good night.
Good luck.